the winter holidays last year and saw that spectacular paper dress, that paper Victorian dress, you would appreciate what people do on their own time to just make it a lot more pleasant place and do things that are out of the ordinary. And I must say that we did turn some heads in terms of our colleagues in other libraries, and I think the gauntlet is now down. And I know Charlton are definitely preparing something to compete with us, and they've said that they want to have some kind of a competition. So that's what makes it fun. And it's because we have a great audience and the support in the community, we know we can do things that will bring people in, and that not everybody wants books, people want something different, maybe even just somebody wants some activity or just conversation, and hopefully we can provide that. I've often seen people who haven't met each other for years meeting for at the library for the first time in youngs. So whatever it is that we can provide, we hope that we can be that place. And we are not delivery, by the way, because in my early days here we used to get calls for delivery because we were right next to the library.
Do you want to mention the bicycle?
Oh sure, thank you. We have 3 bicycles that we're about to launch, thanks to the trustees coming up with a policy and having the faith in us. We are now going to loan out 3 bicycles, 3 adult bicycles to anybody who's 18 or older. We will be providing the safety equipment to go with them and a lock. And it's something out of the ordinary. Some libraries are doing bakeware or even landscaping tools and that type of thing, but we already have a telescope, and we have, the telescope is probably the most outstanding thing that we have, and now we want to add the bicycles. Fitchburg is already loaning out bicycles, so it's not completely unique, but it's certainly something that's unusual. And what we're hoping is that when people have friends who would like to, maybe you are lucky enough to have a bicycle, but your friend mightn't, so maybe you can come to the library, borrow the bike for the day, and bring it back in one piece, please. And we'd be delighted to, have people come in. And all you need is a library card. And for all the services that we have at the library, everything is free, and all you need is to apply for a card, and the card is free, but you just have to have ID. And that's a pretty simple thing in this day and age. Like, everybody has to have ID, so hopefully that will work. Yes.
Donate the bicycle?
They were actually bought.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and we work with the recreation department. Steve Rosenfeld, who is the rec director, deserves a lot of credit because he is a qualified bicycle mechanic, and he was the one that started to raise consciousness in the community for Bicycle Month, which is May. So for the last few years, we have been upping our game in terms of the resources that we have available. So we've been buying a lot more bicycle-related materials to support this whole initiative. And we will have the bike available, and I'm hoping that we can promote the library because it has the library colours, the teal and maroon, and it has our logo on it, our name. So hopefully that will be what people will see and start recognising what we're doing, and maybe there'll be requests for other things, and maybe it can grow from there. It all depends on how the usage. We have passes for museums, but we also have passes, say, for the local Andrew J. Petro pool. We have 2 passes that go out every day. So, if you want to try out the facilities that are down there, which are second to none. 3 years ago, the state undertook a major renovation, and it's actually like a resort down there, and especially if you get good weather. So, that's something that I'd invite you to come and see. It's definitely not the library that I would have grown up with in my era, even though I didn't grow up in the US, but things have changed. I like to think the libraries have changed with the times, and that's what Billy was saying, and I'm glad that we were able to, and it's only because of your support, and also the fact that you see the library as the place that should be providing these things, so there's an expectation, and the fact that we can do that is really quite the thing. But it isn't done in isolation. It takes a village. It is the trustees, it is the staff, and it is the friends of the library, and that's where it all comes together. So maybe if I just mentioned as well, as I have the floor, that I remember Matt Antil from way back, and there's some people in the audience I remember from way back too, because they were on stage and involved in the dance, and also in a supportive role, be it parents and family and friends. And it's really nice to connect with everybody in the community, and that's what this event also allows us to do. And it's thanks to having great mentors and also teachers in the community, and I'm thinking of Debbie Sickles and people like that who have for years provided great education and pedagogical instruction, and then wonderful students and people interested and parents who are supportive and take their kids every week, year, month, day, that type of thing. That's what makes it all happen, so it's really great.
If you get the pictures, cherry on top of the cake. Because there's some real humdingers. But thank you, Margaret, so much for having me here. This is really special. I don't get to have so many of my hometown memories come into one place very often, and this is really a nice treat for myself. I think I'm going to just tell my kind of journey from Southbridge, my roots in Southbridge, through my journey to New York. I grew up here and went to Trinity Catholic Academy. I actually went to preschool at the YMCA, and then went over to Trinity, was there from grades 1 to 7. During that time, I was lucky enough to be exposed to lots of arts, constant pageants and school plays, and the support of people in the community, mainly Donna Olson, who had a slide picture. Is it ready? Fantastic! Oh my gosh. It'll help me out and it'll help me remember what's next.
You can just let me know when to put slides if you want.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll just, boom. So, Pride in Southbridge today is June 28th, 2018. We're off to a good start. So that's, yep. It started out with the coordinated outfits. And so, right at the top, I want to point out my mother, Kathleen Antil. She's right there. And my father, Roy Antil. Okay, next. This was the YMCA years. Yeah, Crayola realms. So next. And I think actually this is where it kind of started my roots of wanting to be a little entertainer myself. My brother, who is here, Corey, was big into athletics, and we would follow him around, and of course I was right up there with the cheerleaders and doing my thing, had my own milk crate and everything. In the next one, I think it's just a zoomed photo. Yeah, there he is. Yep, pioneer. Go Southbridge. Next one, please. And this is the beginning of like those pageants, the Christmas pageants at the Y. You know, all my friends, I grew up with these kids all through Trinity and Y. You can keep going. That is me and my cousin Mandy's first communion dress. Maybe an omen of things to come. So next. Yep. This was me and my babysitter's daughter's recital outfits, and that's sort of where I started to go to her. I was going to her classes at Debbie's. Debbie, where are you, Debbie? Oh, okay. Then when Debbie comes in, she'll get her, because she really set the foundation for me and a place to call home at her studio on North Street when I was little, and I would go there to see my babysitter's daughter's classes, and I would also look up and watch Jasmine Bell, who I developed a wonderful crush on in my years, long time ago. Yes, but I looked up to those senior dancers that were performing. I was like in awe of their movement for whatever reasons I couldn't tell you. and I think a lot of things at a young age, kids just, they're attracted to things, they have no idea why. I was really attracted to movement and really wanted to get involved in that. So you can keep going. That's Christmas pageant, Trinity Catholic Academy. Keep going, some more, just yeah. Let's kind of keep going. And that's Donna Olson and Deacon Olson. I wish they could be here, but they live in North Carolina now. Happy as clams, I'm sure. But she was major. I think the next photo has a photo of her putting makeup on me. Yep. Beauty and the Beast. I was the clock. I thought this was like I was like, yes, glitter on the face. we're on a roll. The next one, I think it's just more photos. Yes. So these, the Halloween, I always had the custom costumes from my mom that made the costumes. I don't have the picture of me being an M&M. That was one of the best ones. I think it was like the first one. But that was lots of fun. Yep, there's Aladdin. And I think the next photo, so this is my first dance recital. And it brings back a lot of memories. Yes, Debbie Sickle is here. I really owe a lot to you, and I'm so glad that you could be here.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes. So this was, and you gave me a little solo, which I was really happy for, and I chose the cabbage. I probably did, yeah, I probably did. But the next one, yep, jump split, boom, down. Good. Next one. These are all you can just kind of roll through these. These are my young dance photos. As you can see, I was really just, ear to ear smiles a lot because I was doing what I loved. And regardless of how many pounds I gained. And yes, through all the, that was Nutcracker, my first Nutcracker. And my mom helped to encourage me so we could stop there. So things like that Nutcracker at that young age, that wasn't just a local Nutcracker, that was something that we did traveling. I believe it was New Hampshire, right, or Andover, Mass. It was like a little traveling company, but that was like my first taste of something a little bit more of an elevated level on the performance end, and having to sort of.
You told the story about how you got that.
The story of what?
How you kind of fell into it.
Fell into the Nutcracker?
No, you were networking. You were networking at that age.
Oh, I probably was. I would talk to anybody. And, big, at a park and shop, in the aisles, scoops, I was there, I was talking to people. But yeah, I guess had the gift of gab, and, I guess it leads you to those opportunities. And I'm glad that my mom afforded me to be able to make that happen. This is the first trip to New York, which it's so weird looking at these photos. You can go forward. So weird looking at these photos now because this is my home, and to see you never know where your life is going to lead you. But I think that trip, that was in 1996. We get out there. That was the first Broadway show I ever saw. Yeah, in 1996. And ironically, this corner, which was on the corner of 47th and 7th Avenue, which is one of the main Times Square billboard corners. My Broadway debut, my first Broadway show, the poster was right there, in the same exact spot. Actually in this corner, but same. And I obviously didn't take up figure skating, but we can go forward. Right, so there's a bit of a gap in the access to the photos that I've had. So we go from 1996 in first trip to New York, and between that time and this time, this is me in high school in Boston. So between that time, a lot of things happened. Trinity, I grew up, like I said, I grew up with the same kids from like preschool through 7th grade. 8th grade, the big Niagara Falls trip that you wait to go with all all of your classmates, I had to make the decision for 8th grade year if I was to stick with the same school and the same kids, or to go to Burncoat in Worcester. Why would you just change schools? Well, the reason why is because Burncoat is one of the only schools that has an arts magna program where they allow the kids to dance during school. And so we would travel, my dad and I would travel every morning, I don't know, what is it, 40 minutes, 30 minutes?
Long enough.
Long enough, right? Yeah, long enough. Long enough every morning to school. I was late every single day.
Just like you were today.
Yep, there's a plaque somewhere, I swear, in school. But you know, we stuck it out, and I don't know how I wouldn't be able to do that sort of schedule myself now, but it was the trek to school in the morning to Worcester, do school all day, dance in school, an hour and a half or so at the end of my school day. I would leave 10 minutes early, leave school 10 minutes early. My aunt would pick me up. She'd bring me to Union Station. Is it Union Station in Worcester? Yeah. Union Station in Worcester, take the train from Worcester to Boston, get off the train, get to the studio in Boston, train all night long. Mm-hmm. My mom would drive after work to Boston, pick me up. I would do homework on the hour and a half trek home, and it would start all over the next morning. So there's a lot of sacrifice that has come from my family, and I'm eternally grateful for that. These two individuals, Jimmy Vieira and Jeanette Neal, were responsible for really taking me in to their program called Boston Youth Moves, in the heart of the North End, right? In the heart of the North End, and really elevating my training. I've really kind of catapulted my training to a whole nother level, and also afforded me more opportunities to work with people from New York, and that's when I started working with people from Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Started working with Chet Walker, who's a huge Broadway legend, and so I got to work at that age, at that level, and it was really, really incredible. I think the next slide has photos of so that's me and Mitzi Gaynor. I got to meet Mitzi Gaynor. That's Hannah Sides, my dance partner. During those years, we had a lot of fun together, and some wonderful performance opportunities. I think the next one's with Cheetah Rivera. Good. So we can just keep going forward, because there's a lot of them. I just kind of like dragged and dropped because I didn't want to miss an opportunity. So after I graduated high school, and then I got, if you can go back, can you go back? Yeah, so that's at Jacob's Pillow. Jacob's Pillow is in Lee, Massachusetts, and is one of the kind of like the holy grounds. It's the holy ground of dance. It's really kind of a spiritual place for artists, and they have the largest dance archive in the world, and people from all over the world come every single year to perform, to also work on new works and set them on the students that are working at the school over the summer. They have ballet program, jazz program, tap program, hip hop programs. It's really well-rounded, and the students get a wonderful exposure to people. And you get to, I think it's 20 kids or so per program, and half of them are from the States and half of them are from everywhere else in the world. So it's very competitive to get into, but once you're in, I get to work with people from meet people from all over the world, and that was really, really nice. That's Donna McKechnie. She's the chorus line, Cassiana chorus line original Tony Award winner. That was pretty fabulous. So we can move forward. After that, so this is how serious rehearsals are with the Rockettes. when I moved to New York, well, I guess I don't want to forget to mention that after graduating high school, I did explore the options of going to college and conservatory. I got accepted full scholarship to Boston Conservatory and went to the acceptance dinner, had a wonderful beef Wellington, and said, thank you so much, but my heart is telling me I need to go right to the city. So that decision, I went right to New York. Immediately was working at the Ailey School with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and I was lucky enough to get a reoccurring scholarship through the Oprah Winfrey Foundation. And that was a pretty humbling experience to get a letter from Oprah and then having to write her a letter back. I'm like, she ain't gonna read this. But it was wonderful. But shortly into my studies at the Ailey School, I landed my first tour with the Rockettes. And so that is at this moment. So we can go forward. I think there's just more Radio City photos. Yeah, that's what you look like after a day of rehearsal and you're icing your shins and your feet and your ankles. Yeah, and you get to spread Christmas joy from October through January, playing an elf, also a teddy bear. I was the center one, of course. And there's some more Rockette photos there. That's me there. Great, yes, arena tour, that was amazing. So I did 6 tours with the Rockettes and was lucky enough to also launch their first arena show, which was like super rock star size, like 46 trucks. Like we were working with like the guys that load in Madonna and load out U2. It was a really wonderful experience. So we can keep going forward. That is in Houston. Us trying to be in the line. Needless to say, we didn't make it. And then, so this is going forward to, we can kind of just go through these ones. This is from a show that I did called Ticket to Ride, which was a tribute to the Beatles. We performed alongside a popular group called Beatlemania, and it was sort of like a concert/dance performance at this in one, and that was directed and choreographed by a gentleman who really took my training to the next level and taught me really how to dance like a man and bring those aspects to. This is David Marquez, and I only included a few photos of him because there's not very many of us working together. Because we were always working and around a camera. But yes, so this man I owe a great deal to as well. And he's still teaching in New York sometimes, but anyway, he taught me a lot. And yes, so keep going forward. That's me passed out and on a prop because we're working really hard and working. Isn't there must be, it's been a hot day's night. Yeah, it was. So, keep going forward. And that was my dance partner, Sky Maddox, who's currently on Broadway and Carousel, and who I sort of assisted and helped bring her to New York with that project. And yeah, so we keep going forward. So then these are, I think there's a series of just, I kind of tried to push forward, just kind of like photos that were the result of collaborations with photographers and people that were, through your networking, you meet lots of people that are doing different things in their field in photography. And so these are some of the cool things. That wall was shot in Queens. That no longer exists. The city decided to paint over all that beautiful graffiti, unfortunately. But yeah, we can keep going forward. And This is from a shoot that I did with a man named David Liddell, and those photos ended up in a gallery presentation at the International Center for Photography, and I think it was at the entrance of the Lincoln Tunnel, on a big garbage dumpster, but you do what you get the shot, right? Get the shot. And then actually recently some of those photos were presented in Vegas, I think last year, or this past year, for at the Met. I didn't know Vegas had a Met, but they have like a Metropolitan Museum of Art in Vegas, and it was like a little collaboration with Cirque du Soleil, so that was kind of cool to see. About 10 years later, some of your experiences and your work resurfaces. So I think this is also going through some more of my company work with people such as Cecilia Marta, which she really kind of exposed me to a lot more world dance, lots of like really grounded movement. It was a lot of more different movement than I was used to, but you seize those opportunities to keep yourself really versatile and a dynamic performer. And so this, sticks and feathers, run the whole gamut. This was shot during the Fire Island Dance Festival, which is a part of dancers responding to AIDS, which is kind of a subsidiary or co-foundation of Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which I'll get into. But yeah, the first one, the white one, was a rehearsal photo, which I didn't know they were taking, and then this one is a performance photo that I didn't know that they were taking, and I thought it was pretty cool that it was almost a carbon copy. I was like, wow. And then this is, as I said, in my years at Boston Youth Moves, I got to work with Chet Walker, who is a world-renowned choreographer for Fosse. He worked closely with Bob Fosse and is responsible for kind of letting his legacy as a choreographer and his particular style live on. And this was when we first put together his company called Walker Dance, and this is some of the shots. That's Dana Moore. She's a fabulous Broadway performer, and Jonathan Phelps, who unfortunately is no longer with us. I was lucky enough to perform side by side with him, and he was Chet's partner, but he unfortunately passed away. But he is living with us. Okay, we can go forward. Yeah, so there's the full company. There's Chet and Jonathan, them at work. And this was at the Pillow as well. We got to do a wonderful residency at the Pillow, which is another wonderful thing that Jacob's Pillow has as part of their mission. Outside of the summer season, when everything's going on with the summer school programs and the dance companies coming in, they allow one company to come in and sort of do a residency where they can work on new works in the iconic studios, and we got to work on some really amazing stuff. Going forward, so this, yep. So this is just a moment in time. This was from the Fred Astaire Awards. This was shortly after Michael Jackson passed away, and Kenny Ortega was someone they were honoring. And Kenny Ortega is a world-renowned choreographer, worked a lot with Michael, and so we were there to honor Michael in that tribute. And I think the next one, yeah, so this is Countess Luann de Lesseps, New York City Real Housewife. I don't know if all of you recognize her, but so I met her. I was lucky enough to meet her then, and then she ironically came to my opening night in La Cage on Broadway. So I just threw that in there. So there's that. And then, so this is the audition day that I had for La Cage. So a little story, let me get a little sip before I get into this one. So this was this was a moment that really changed my life. When you go to the city and you're on the grind, the audition grind, day in, day out, you might get this job, you might not get that one. You just keep pushing through. This was just another gig that I was trying to get, and I happened to be working in Boston as a guest choreographer, I believe, at the time, with Boston Youth Moves, working with the kids there, and I got a call from my manager saying they need you back in New York for a final callback. And I'm like, oh, I've heard that story, a million times. But and he was like, no, it's really important that you do this. And so, long story short, got back to New York, got my classes covered or whatever in Boston, went to the audition, and every single person there got the memo that they were supposed to be in drag. And they had these prepared songs, and I did not. So this is just to kind of show, this is my good friend Reed Kelly, who is also Broadway extraordinaire. But this is what I was going against, and then this is what I presented. Not the same at all. But luckily for me, the character that I was up for was the Kajal and the drag queen of the play that was the kind of like the butch one, the least glamorous one of them all. So it sort of worked to my favor and to my advantage without me knowing it. But I will tell you, when I saw everybody in drag and I felt like I was not prepared, I was just like, well, the show must go on, let's just make it happen. So I just gave it all I got, and the next thing I know, I was in La Cage, and this was my Broadway debut in 2010. I got to share wonderful memories. We can sort of roll through. That's the outside of the theater, and it gives me goosebumps every single time I walk down 48th Street, and I probably will until the day I die. But yeah, that's me right there. Right here. So this was the beginning of so many wonderful memories for a period of about 2 years. Yep, see, that face says it all about my character. Just completely over it, but living their life at the same time. And yeah, so I got to work with Kelsey Grammer and Douglas Hodge. That was the year that we won the 2010 Tony Award for Best Revival. And then when Kelsey and Doug left the show, Harvey Firestein, who was the writer of La Cage and very infamous, all worked up on Starbucks. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so when they had the cast switch over, they brought in Harvey Firestein, which was really a very special opportunity for all of us. Not only to work with Harvey so closely, but to perform right next to him. He wrote the play, and he would change things on like the same day. He'd be like, well, I wrote the thing, I can just change whatever I want. We're like, great, can we get a memo? But that was just an incredible experience, and I think there's a photo. You can go forward. Love it. Keep going. Yes, I love that wig. Love the hair. It just sort of kind of became with this type of a show, and having to put so much work into your makeup and really, I don't want to say narcissistic because I'm not a narcissistic person, but you're really kind of like put a lot into your person because you become that character, and I get to kind of leave my worries outside the door for at least a period of 2 hours or so. There's Kelsey and us when we performed in Times Square. Yeah, wonderful bikinis. Thank God it was August, so we're fine. Oh, so this is this is a shot from, and the next one is also from from Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS event that we did. So Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS does events all year long. They produce numerous shows and events that happen in the Broadway community. They do Gypsy of the Year, which was from this performance was at Gypsy of the Year. They also do another big performance called Easter Bonnet. So they have one in the fall and one in the spring. And then they have the annual Broadway Bears, which I've done 6 or 7 of those, the big shows, but then also numerous little fundraisers, like little shows that, on the side to help spark fundraising throughout the year. So there's not too many of those photos that I could show for reasons of appropriateness, but only just because the Broadway Bears is like a big burlesque show. But I digress, so we keep going forward. This was during our, I was lucky enough to be a part of the album release for Lacage. Yep. Trying to sing and act. I look real mad. I don't know why. So these are just kind of like highlights of like those moments. It was a huge opportunity. So this is a very rare photo, only because this man, Jeffrey Tambor, who is a really amazing actor. I would think you would all agree that at Arrested Development, he's very accomplished. But this just goes to show how show business works and how it rolls sometimes. So Lacage was doing great, fabulous, fine, won the Tony Award, pushed through the holiday season and the winter where shows generally close because there's not a lot of business. And then they decided to switch out the stars with Harvey Fierstein and brought in Jeffrey Tambor. And then Jeffrey is a TV person, TV and film person, and was just not used to having to do things live and on the spot, live theater 8 times a week. And I'm sorry, have I been blocking you? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to give them the photo, so if you want to go and look back and be like, what was he talking about? Yeah, so, but Jeffrey Tambor came in, like I said, not a theater person, lasted 12 shows. They sunk a ton of money into the show, and just as an example, I think there's a picture of, we can go forward, I think the picture of the, Joy Behar, no, so the billboard that I mentioned before, I forgot to get the photo of it, but it's okay. But these are all just like different celebrities that came through the show to visit us. But they like a billboard back then, and that location of Times Square cost $125,000 a month. So when you make a mistake like that in casting, it can close your show. Unfortunately, Kylie Minogue, that was like just a moment for me and also when Barbra Streisand came in. Adam Lambert and I being best buds. My mom was actually at that party, ironically. Paige Davis, who we've developed a wonderful relationship, and Randy Jones, who we have a wonderful relationship now. We're great friends from the Village People. There's Mom. He loves you. He calls you Nancy. I have no idea why, but so that's in the theater too. We can kind of just move forward. This is, I want to point out this individual. So this is Jennifer Powers. I don't have any photos that I could find immediately, but from our years of growing up through Debbie's and dancing together and she was my childhood compadre, as I would say. We danced together through all of my years before high school, and she came to see me at Lacage, and that's a photo from that moment. And now she has 3 kids now. It's crazy. We can keep going forward. And that's just, what you do after work. You sign. We had some pretty loyal fans. This is one individual's collection of playbills from our show. And you can keep going forward. Oh, there's Mom. Look at Mom. Just waiting for me to finish my business with the fans. So this is from benefit that we did called, it happens every year, Broadway Beauty Pageant, and that benefited the Ali Fournet Center, which is also a wonderful organization. If you ever get a chance to look that up, they have their whole kind of premise is to support LGBTQ youth and provide them shelter if they're homeless. So in the city, they have since that time they've built another entire building that actually Bea Arthur had given money from her estate to help build that for them. So that was one. Those are my colleagues and friends at the pageant there. Bruce Valanche, he was a hoot. Yeah, so we can keep going forward. Rachel Dratch. So it's nice to be able to do those things. So this is the beginning of that was Lacage Broadway, and then the tours, and then you fit things in between. So that was a nice benefit to be able to do amidst all of my other work that I was doing. So this is George Hamilton and Christopher Sieber, who went out on the road with me, with us, I should say. And we toured for about a year and a half. That's the only photo I have with a Tony Award. And hopefully I have many more to add to this collection, but that was our Tony Award for Lacage. We can keep rolling forward. There's me and Papa Ham. I call him Mr. Magoo, because a lot of times he would just walk out on stage, sometimes with a water bottle that he forgot he had in his hand, and sometimes he didn't even really know where he was. But he told some amazing stories, as you can imagine, George Hamilton, who has lived quite a life. And that is Marilyn Monroe's coat. I thought that was pretty cool. We were in San Diego, and he was like, "Do you want to go to a party?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely with you. I would definitely go to any party." These are two of my best friends. I just thought I'd throw that in there. They're still my best friends. That's my bestie. So that's kind of like, you become like kind of sisters, brothers, whatever. It was a really close bond through that show. I was in Tennessee. So this is our Red Bucket efforts in New York, and also out on the road. We collect for Broadway Cares Equity Fight Days to help raise funds for that organization as well. And that's during the Lacage years as well. So this is just, I threw this in here. It's kind of hard to read, but this is just proof of last year with Broadway Cares. They raised $12,879,322 in grants. So that is the level of money that is able to be raised just in 1 year. That's just for the grants. That does not include all of the services they provide they provide. I think you can go to the next one. Yes. So they provide anything from counseling, healthcare, emergency financial assistance through the Actors Fund, and meals if people need it, help with their medications. It's not just in the Broadway community. It's the Broadway community coming together to help those that need help. It's not just oh, are you an actor? Oh, you need help, but are you an actor? It's not that at all. It's anybody that needs help, they can come to them for assistance, and they spread the wealth of the funds that they are able to raise to many different organizations, and like the Phyllis Newman Women's Health Initiative, which major research in breast cancer and ovarian cancer, I believe. So they're really wonderful people and doing some really good work. So I think we can go forward. And I'm not sure, so let me check so this is some more information. They sent this, they airlifted it. Yes. Oh, it's been circulated?
Yes.
Fantastic. So if you want to look through this a little bit more, you probably, with the delay, read it cover to cover, but it's a wonderful organization, and if you would like to donate, it's greatly appreciated. So, and this, I'm just going to kind of push through these. This, some of the smaller events that I've done for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. It really is important to me. It's not only just a performance, another performance opportunity, but it's really rewarding when you get to do what you love and help other people, people that are in need with your talents. So we can kind of, selling raffle tickets. So this is just a shot of, this is the turnout. That's one cast of one event. So you can imagine with 5 or 6 events of this size a year, how much good is happening. So that's the cast of Broadway Bears one year. And I think the next one is, this is just one show, and they do 2 shows, so this is the type of turnout. So some big things are happening with this organization and those performances. And that's Jerry Mitchell, who is a Tony Award-winning director choreographer. He is the head of Broadway Bears and kind of really spearheading that annual production and raising a lot of much needed funds. You can go forward. So yep, so the lacage came in handy when these events came up. So this is kind of what happens. Lots of fun, and Mac Cosmetics comes in and helps us out. And so I don't know, I threw this in. This is actually my manager, Michael Einfeld, and I just saw that photo. And then you end up on Jerry Springer. You just answer the call and you say, okay, where am I going? Stamford, Connecticut? Okay. Jerry Springer? Oh, okay. And they forget to tell you that it airs every year. Valentine's Day, so keep an eye out for that one. And I just threw this slide in to kind of represent my years in New York, bartending and doing the nightlife thing. So you live the dream, the Broadway dream, where you do what you have to do. You can be in a Broadway show, and then the next minute you're out of a job, and you have to be on that grind, and you have to do what you have to do. But I have to say that in the moment, it's like I'm doing what I have to do so that I can help pay my bills, right? And I'm bartending. But now that I look back on it, I learned so much from the patrons that came through those doors every single day, particularly during the time when I was bartending at a bar called the Manhattan Monster, which is in the heart of Greenwich Village, and right across the street from the Stonewall Inn, where the Stonewall riots occurred. Actually, today is the 49th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, and I applaud in my heart and in my mind every single day those people that took a stand and said enough is enough. And hopefully, I'm sure that the library has literature and lots of access to things, and the information is available. Yes, so 49 years ago, all it took was one person named Marsha P. Johnson, who was a self-identified drag queen at the time, and said enough is enough, and fought back with the police who were raiding them just for being who they are. And so became Pride, and that's why June is kind of set aside as a moment to kind of recognize that moment in history and moving forward. So I'm not sure what the next. Okay, so then Flashdance happened. So then I was lucky enough to be called in to be the dance captain and swing for Flashdance the musical, which was a really fun show. Lots of fun. We had the water jets from the floor, and from an artistic standpoint, as a dancer, we were doing everything. I was, 1 minute I would be a steel worker, and then the next minute I was literally within the same number, I'd be a break dancer and a hip hop dancer, and then the next scene I'd have to be a ballet dancer, and then the next scene I'd have to be a steel worker again. So it really kind of pushed the boundaries of us as artists, and and then to sort of have that responsibility as a dance captain to be there in charge of all the artistic material, I should say, and having to teach people of all different levels. That really was a wonderful step for me in my journey as an artist, to take on that responsibility. And I kind of found that it really does take a certain type of a person to be able to communicate what is needed of them in the story, and teach them how to become part of the puzzle, so to speak. So I really look forward to. I'm not sure what other photos are next. Yeah, break dancer. I think I named myself Colt. I wasn't on every single night because I was a swing. If somebody was injured or whatever, I would come in last minute and do their part, because I had to know everybody's part. But yeah, so that was me as a break dancer, and that's me with one of the girls, our principals. Yeah. So that's what a sold house. I just thought that was a nice photo. It warms my heart and to look at that and remind myself what a sold out house looks like. That was in Toronto. And this was in Boston when Debbie Sickle and Jasmine Bell, my mom, and Karen Lanza came to see me in Boston with Flashdance. And I threw that in there because I love my mom, and sometimes you have to take your mom to the theater. And that was when we went to go see Gentleman's Guide. And that's just me. That's my home. That's really pretty. And that's my home now, celebrating Pride in all its glory. And there you have it. So that's pretty much the slideshow and my story. And there's so many more things that I could talk about within the story in depth, but I didn't want to. I don't even know what time it is. Yeah, we're running over time. I'm sorry. But I welcome any questions from anybody. Any questions about? Yes.
Do you have a Tony?
I don't have a Tony.
Oh, that was
I
the
know.
Tony.
That was the one Tony for the entire company. They shipped it to. That was in Des Moines, Iowa, when we launched the national tour. They shipped it in a glass box, and they put it on display, and we were like, take it out of the box and let's hold it. For once, yeah.
What a
I was
great
like, is there chocolate inside?
That was a great achievement.
Yeah. So, any more questions? I really hope, it just got me thinking. I responded to some questions from, I forget her name, but the person.
Sarah Champagne?
Sarah Champagne, yes, from the Citizen Chronicle. And she sort of had me think about how Southbridge is now compared to when I grew up. And I have to be, honest. What I was so focused on my dance. I was just in that studio all the time. I wasn't necessarily involved with all the other things that were happening in the community, but I was aware of them. But I certainly can attest that in my time growing up in this wonderful town, that there was lots of art involvement and collaborations with the church, and that's also another thing too. In my experience in living in New York, you come across people that come from all different walks of life in different parts of the country, and their story of coming out can be catastrophic and the polar opposite of what I experienced. And I can tell you that I went to a Catholic church. I grew up in a Catholic school, and I had nothing but support from the people that were around me, my pastors and my art teachers, my dance teachers, and just all the people around me. Being who I was always allowed to be who I am and who I was and who I was becoming without me knowing it. You know, I didn't know I was a little gay boy. I didn't know that, and that is just fine. But it really puts it in perspective when I meet those people that, you know, continue to struggle or really had to struggle to get to be comfortable with who they are and who, you know, it's you just want to be proud of who you are and who others are. So I think that Pride is about celebrating that, and I'm really glad that we have programs like this to bring a long-winded presentation your way. But I think it's important, and I think it's really important that communities continue to put forth those arts programs, those performance opportunities. I mean, if I had it my way, I would have had a dance studio come up here and perform for you just to illustrate, you know, creating those opportunities. I remember we used to dance at the Fall Festival, and at Notre Dame we would dance at, you know, all these random things, and it didn't really matter what it was for or how small or how big it was, how many numbers we did. It was just an opportunity. And of course we did competitions too, but we did those for the opportunity to perform. It wasn't about a medal or anything like that. It was always and I thought that I feel that I was raised properly in that way. So thank you, Debbie, again for that, and everyone else involved. So if anybody has any questions about Broadway Cares, you're more than welcome to come up and talk to me about it. Again, there's more literature here, and you can look them up at Broadway Cares Equity, or BroadwayCares.org, I believe. Yes. So.
Nicely done.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Ashley, you do a fine job.
And happy Pride. I'm sorry. 31.
When I get there, but when I do it, it's so